Here are the 10 things you're gonna need to invest in cash flowing properties remotely. We're gonna start off with number one, and that's the low capital requirement. We're looking for markets where you aren't required to put in a lot of money. Ideally, we wanna be less than $60,000. We wanna start off with the low capital requirement, which means, these properties are gonna be $100,000 to $200,000. Then we wanna make sure that these properties cash flow. And usually what that means to me is that we're hitting the 1% rule. That's a great place to start to make sure that we are actually seeing cash flow in that market. So it can't just be cheap. The rents have to also be good enough to where we can actually take some cash flow, because appreciation is just gambling. And then that brings us to a third thing. Okay, we have a property, it's on the cheaper side, it cash flows. What's our liability in terms of the tenants? What are the landlord laws, right? What can we do in terms of non-payment of rent, or really any other issues that maybe tenant-to-tenant matters that are gonna come up? So we research the landlord laws, we go on the state website, we see what's actually happening in that state and how beneficial they are to us for running our business, our property. Then we kind of dive into the economics, right? So we want to look at the population of the city. What is the number one employer in that city? And, I'm going to keep using this example because we love Cleveland so much. Well, Cleveland is healthcare. And while a lot of people initially search Cleveland, you'll see that the population in Cleveland proper is shrinking, but in the greater metropolitan area of Cleveland, it's actually going up because there's so many places that are 5 minutes from Cleveland, these little cities, little pockets. That's where everybody wants to live. That's where all the money and all the people and a lot of these healthcare workers are moving towards. We look very deeply into the economics of the area, and we don't just want a place that is just a small, very rural, low populous area. This is one of the big cities in the States. It has its own MLB, NFL, NBA teams. Once we have all that, now we're getting into the neighborhoods. So what kind of neighborhoods are there? Now, there's really no such thing as good or bad neighborhoods in terms of investing. We just want cash flow, but we want to know what's going on in the A, B, C, and D neighborhoods. Now, personally, I will not invest in a D neighborhood. I will only go C or higher, but the higher neighborhood, the lower the cash flow is. So just keep that in mind and weigh the pros and cons of that when you're looking into what neighborhoods you want to buy. Now that you know all of this, you really got to get into your deal flow. So deal flow is contacting your realtor, contacting other investors, contacting your wholesalers, and networking with wholesalers and telling them, hey, we know what neighborhoods we're looking in. We know kind of how much we want to put into the deal. We know what kind of cash flow we're looking for. Send me these types of deals. Because a lot of times people will go, they will talk to people, just say, send me deals. Send me something that's at a discount, that you believe is at a discount. You're going to waste a lot of time with a lot of noise there. So make sure you're very specific, telling your realtor and wholesalers what types of deals you're looking for. Then as we kind of go up there, we get into minimizing taxes. What does that mean? That means having the right corporate structure so that over the long term, you're paying the least amount of taxes. And that could be a whole video in itself, but that is the next step in this process, which brings us to the funding. Now, this is mortgage qualification. Do I need my income? Do I need my credit? No, we don't do that. We deal with, again, this could be its whole own video, but we deal with the DSCR loans, which means that, these properties that are cash flowing, they can easily cover the mortgage. The banks, the lenders like to see that, and there's cash flow left over coming to us every month. They just look at the property. They're not looking at my income. They're not looking at my credit. They're just looking at the property, what it can bring in rent, and approving these loans based off of that. So we got ease on the funding. And then we go into the offers and negotiations. Now we're really focusing on negotiating the best deal possible, finding out what's going on with the property in terms of the roof, the windows, all these big ticket items, what's going on, what do we need to invest in it, and using these all to our benefit to negotiate the price down, right? We want to maximize essentially the savings we're going to get and make it a really big deal. And after we got that, it really comes down to operations. So this is where it comes down to your property manager, your contractors, making sure you have that power team in place and managing them effectively in terms of, okay, are you, you said it, you're going to get this done, the renovation's done in X amount of months, holding them to that, holding them to their price and holding them to their timelines, and making sure that it's getting maximum rent with good tenants. But this is how we do it. This is a very high level version of how we find areas that cash flow and set up a power team and buy properties and manage them remotely. If you found that interesting, then shoot us a DM and we can dive more into it.